Thank you all for joining us on Public Square today to talk about this issue. And I'd like to start with our young people, Crystal and Lauren. I'd like to hear a little bit about your story, how long you were in foster care, and how many placements you had.
I was in the foster care system for 6 years. Within those 6 years, I had 22 different foster placements. The end of my second year in foster care, I was labeled as a runaway, which meant I ran away from every placement that I stayed in. Eventually, I ran out of placements in Santa Fe, so I was sent to Albuquerque, where they sent me to a psychiatric hospital.
Why did you run away?
I felt I wasn't listened to. I felt I was being punished for something I've never done, and I also felt I was being labeled for someone who I wasn't. Before I went into foster care, I was basically a straight A and B student. I started doing poorly in school. Also, when I got moved to Albuquerque, I completely lost contact with friends, family, school, everyone, everything I ever known. Everything was taken away from me. I mean, I was 13 years old. I was 14 years old in the foster care system, being labeled as a rebellious child. So immediately I thought, well, everyone already thinks I'm this way, so I might as well act this way. One night, I got a little too drunk for New Year's with, my foster family who had 25-year-old children in the home, and they immediately said that I was trying to commit suicide. So that's why they put me in the psychiatric hospital, when really they put me in the psychiatric hospital because there was no more placements for me. And they told me that. And my social workers at the time were making up lies about me and blatantly telling me, I'm gonna say this about you so that way you can stay in this placement. Normal kids are dealing with, clubs and extra sports and, oh, what am I gonna do for prom? And my 4 years of high school was spent fighting off bullies and being forced to take medication that I didn't necessarily need, so that way they can just calm me down or basically shut me up. They make you think that you're crazy when you're really not crazy. You're just fighting to survive in this world that you've been thrown into, and you may not necessarily understand that world.
So when you hit 18, were you prepared? All of a sudden you're an adult?
When you're in the foster care system, of course, you think you know it all as a child. You think, I can take care of myself. I've been doing it for this many years, and I already know what I'm going to do to support myself. But in reality, the world is a lot harsher than anyone can ever prepare you for. And at 18 years old, I didn't have the support I needed to successfully transition to adulthood.
Were you in a home at that time?
Yes, it was a good place for me at the time. They got me back on track with school and I graduated. But my foster parent told me, I'm not going to be paid for you anymore. I'm only giving you 1 month to get out of my house. So came the day of my birthday, I completely moved out of my foster parents' house. I had no place to go, and I basically couch hopped, stayed with friends, stayed in my car, stayed with family, until my mentor was able to help me get an apartment through the transitional living program.
This is through CYFT?
Yes.
Children, Youth, and Families Department.
Yes. And now I'm 21 years old. I live back in Santa Fe, and right now I have a lot of health issues. Basically, if my spouse left me, I would be homeless again today.
What could have helped you more?
What would have helped me more is if my caseworker actually sat down with me and explained to me what I needed to do as an adult, what I needed to do, to look for a job, or go out in the community with me and help me look for a doctor. I feel like they basically throw you a bunch of papers and say, this is what you need to do to be an adult, and you have to meet these requirements by this day in order to keep my service. And I felt like I was meeting all the requirements, but every other month I was being told, you're gonna lose your services, you're gonna lose your stipend, you're gonna lose your housing voucher. So in the past 8 years, I've attempted suicide at least 16 times. as soon as they feel you're not doing what they want you to do, they completely cut you out of services.
Crystal, can we go to your story and talk a little bit about, I know you have a very different kind of experience.
So I was taken into the foster care system at age 17, and I was so angry. I thought it was the worst thing possible because CYFD had been involved before. They had been called and investigated, and it was pretty much the same stuff going on. And then they decided to take me out 8 months before I was going to turn 18. And I was a junior in high school taking college classes. Like, I had it all set. Like, I didn't even care anymore about like my home life. I just blocked it out because I wanted to like succeed. Even like, I guess I put on this front that I could do everything and that I was this perfect person. We had a family meeting with my mom and my stepdad, and they were like, the lady who was running the meeting said, "Okay, I've had enough." And like, just like that, "I've had enough." She was so angry. It was like, we're taking her out of the home, and I was like, and I was scared. I was just mad at the situation and mad that I had to leave so close to when I was already going to leave anyways for college.
So did they put you with a foster family?
They didn't.
Oh.
I was, because they didn't feel that I was safe with myself, they put me in a mental hospital in Albuquerque, where I stayed for about a month and a half. And I slowly started to like realize that it was okay, like being out of my home. They sent me to a residential treatment center after that, and I stayed there for like 4 months. And that's where I really realized that this is the best situation for me, because if I was still at home, like, to be honest, I probably would have like tried to commit suicide or things like that, and it wouldn't have been healthy. And a lot of good came out of the situation.
What happened when you turned 18?
When I turned 18, I was living at Casa Hermosa, the transitional living, and I just stayed there until that February, and then I decided that I wanted to be independent, and I was ready to be independent, so I pretty much just moved out because I was tired of it. For me, I just felt like I had like gotten what I needed out of it, and I was ready to move on.
I wanted to turn to Jackie because you're usually working with young people like this as a transition specialist.
So I come into a young person's life between 16 and a half, 17, while they're still in foster care. And at that time, we start doing transition planning to prepare for when they turn 18 and how are we going to transition them into adulthood and to be successful and independent. We look at their different goals that they have for themselves, education-wise, housing-wise, employment-wise, anything else that they have that they kind of want to achieve.
You're one of just 8 of these people, right? In CYFD?
I am one of 8 in the state, yes.
For the whole state?
For the whole state, and we have about 100 kids every year that age out of foster care
So
in
you're
Mexico.
So what kind of caseloads then do you all have?
My caseload right now is about 40, and I have probably one of the smaller ones. My coworkers have much, much bigger caseloads.
I don't know if anyone can speak to that, Ezra or Steve, but that seems like a small number of transition counselors.
Well, the ratio is probably the bigger issue because of as they were describing how much support they need to have a caseload of 40 or 50.
I wanted to talk to Ezra. What's the biggest barrier to becoming an adult? I mean, legally you're an adult at 18, but
Right. Exactly.
are you actually an adult ready to be
Exactly. I mean,
on
I
your
think,
own?
I think that's, you know, at 18, most of us were not ready to go it alone. And even the things we did alone, you know, we were allowed to fail, and there was someone there who helped talk us through that failure or helped pick us up after we did. And it makes a big difference, I think, when those pieces aren't there. And we see what we call very poor outcomes with this cohort of youth. You know, homelessness is very high. As they both talked about, suicide attempts are often very high. Many of them do not complete their high school degrees. The ones who do don't. Many of them don't go on to college. The ones that do often don't finish. All the things you don't want to see, we see in high proportions with these youth. And that's something we need to change.
Jomo, talk about some of the behavioral health.
I think what happens at 18, particularly if you've gone through a situation where your family unit have really been taken apart for whatever reason. there's guilt, there's what did I do possibly, or they have difficulty making connections because they sometimes feel if I make a connection with these adults, then it means I don't love my parents that they took me away from. You have possible trauma, and so as a result, whatever negatives has been experienced now, it creates a different learned process, right? So you learn some negatives, and then you go into homes that maybe they're not as sensitive to what you've experienced individually and why you're going through it. Some sincerely want to do the right thing, but they're sincerely in error with the training they've gotten or very little training. And so then what happens is you get these youth that are struggling, and then you get to 18. Frontal cortex of the brain doesn't develop to about 23 to 25, maybe even a little later, depending on male or female. But yet we're treating you like a full-fledged adult, and the reality is that you're not an adult. Look like adult, smell like an adult, not an adult. And so you're kind of caught behind the learning curve already because you probably had some developmental delays. You're not lacking in probably intelligence, but definitely skill development. And the biggest thing is, I think, is interpersonal relationship development, because where you learn at it is in the bonds with the parents. And because that's been so devastated, you're resisting psychologically, emotionally, everyone that comes towards you to help you. And so you see the services, yes, you have the services. There's a part that the adolescent is emotionally resistant because they're not trusting. They don't really have a lot of reason to trust sometimes. And then the ones they can trust, it's really colored. It's really shaded. And so I think it's just not the best system. But anytime you see the family unit devastated or taken apart, it impacts the development of that youth. And even if you put in a foster family, it is not the same as having that original family context work well.
So I know you guys have life skills classes for young people. Like, what do those look like? What do you need to help these young people learn to be adults?
We've actually taken the cues from the young people and asked them what they felt that they needed to learn.
What did they tell you?
Well, one of the things Jomo just highlighted is how to be in relationships with people, especially safe relationships, because they often can get into relationships that end up causing them damage because of the experience of the kind of relationships they had when they were growing up. As an adult, one of the more complicated elements that we have to deal with, and you have to learn it pretty quickly, is what to do with money, because that can get you in trouble real fast if you don't handle that. We also do a lot of work around computers and how you prepare yourself to be out in the community and how to get jobs or how to get in school. We were talking about if you want to get into school, you have to fill out pretty complicated forms. And I remember, like the FAFSA, everybody who's ever had a youth in school knows what the FAFSA is. Right. Well, that's not an easy form to fill out. And I know I had help with my family when I filled mine out, and they pretty much filled it out for me because I didn't know a lot of those numbers things back then. Well, to have a young person who doesn't know those things say, well, here's a form, fill this out so you can get into college, that's just not realistic.
I remember like one time a college came to visit our school and asked about our parents' tax information and the FAFSA and all that, and I was just like crying, and I didn't know why, but it was so heartbreaking because I just didn't know.
Yeah.
Some of these youths don't have contact or can't have contact with their families. And what I'm experienced in this case is that some of those parents are still claiming the children.
Oh, on their tax form.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And so you can't get that information, but you can't contact them. So you're trying to figure out that they're not emancipated, so they're not their own individual.
Right.
And so many times what we miss is that the failure to enroll in college is really a failure to really even for them to get that information in the right way when there's been a disconnect from that family.
You guys start working with them in transition like at 17, but if a kid needs to start thinking about college, they need to start thinking about it before 17, right?
Definitely.
Yes.
They definitely do. I think one of the issues is, Lauren brought up she's been in 20 some odd placements, so when you move that much, your school life isn't stable and you're far behind. I know for me it's very common to have young people that are still working towards their GED or still in a charter high school when they're 19, 20.
Is that because credits don't transfer, or they're just?
They missed a lot of school.
Oh, okay.
A lot of school is missed, credits don't transfer, they're changing all the time. And I think they have a lot going on in the foster care system that's very, very hard for a young person.
And this sounds very chaotic. And you are a legal advocate
Yeah,
for these young people?
it really starts right from when the kids are taken into custody. The emphasis is so heavily on finding a safe place for them that the kids' education, oftentimes the school, for a lot of kids, they've already moved a lot before they come into foster care. Some have been in the same school and they had a support system in the school, but in the mix of taking the kid out of the home, that gets lost, and they're moved first into these homes that, as Jomo indicated, a lot of the foster homes don't have the specialized training that they really should have to deal with any child who's been removed from their home, let alone kids who've had years and years of abuse or neglect and trauma. By the time the kids turn 18, a lot of these kids, they are not even close to being able to graduate from high school or think about enrolling in secondary education. And just that in and of itself is going to put them so far behind their peers in terms of their ability to get jobs, to be able to support themselves.
I mean, what should we do to address that? Is it a matter of continuing services past 18?
I think one of the things we're describing here is it's hard enough raising a teenager when you have an intact family. And then when you take young people out of a home that maybe can't take care of them, then all of a sudden this system that we're describing becomes the parent. And we're not very good at it. And we'll never be as good as an intact family, in my opinion, no matter how perfect the programs are. So I think one of the things we want to do is, if we can, in this bigger picture, try to preserve families wherever possible. But if in fact the system has to become the parent and we have to do that job, then we have to get a lot better at how we work together, because these young ladies are describing how they move amongst our programs as well. And we have to get a lot better at making that experience kind of a continuum, a more natural, logical, reasonable sounding, consistent process, as opposed to going from one program to the next program to the next program, which to me, it just makes the problems that they've experienced just continue. We're just as dysfunctional often as the foster care system.
For some of the rural areas, they have very, very little in the way of resources. One of the big issues for kids who are in middle school and high school, they really should be doing extracurricular activities. They should be staying after school, but guess what? There's no transportation, and a lot of kids are being transported by bus half an hour, 45 minutes, or an hour on a bus, and if they don't catch that bus, then somebody else is going to have to do that driving, which means that they end up not participating in those extracurricular activities that would really enrich them and give them so many skills that they need.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I think two parts. I want to go back to what Steve said about we're never going to be as good as the original family unit. And I really think the system needs to kind of maybe shift a little bit and say, okay, you're struggling here as a parent for whatever reasons, whether we agree or disagree with what take place, but how do we come together as a system to help you preserve your family unit and assist you at changing without stigmatizing you? Because many parents are trying to hide the fact. There's no one, I've met very few parents that wake up and say, I want to be a bad parent. Thank God I'm a bad parent. Ooh, thank you. You know, most parents want to be good parents and they don't know how. There are those exceptions where it's like, wow, you should have never had kids. But for the most part, most parents want to be good parents, and it's more of a long line of bad learned behaviors and mental health issues that weren't addressed. And I think if we can make that shift to strengthen the original family unit, providing resources that help the adolescent or the child be a kid. The biggest dangers to adolescents in foster care is that they have to be adults faster than they need to be adults. The biggest help for a kid is to be a kid. Go out, play, get dirty, mess up. You know, that's what you want. And a lot of times they're not able to do that. They're not able to be kids. They're embarrassed. I move from house to house. And I think that's the biggest challenge, is that the system is reactive versus proactive.
The other piece is that when kids come into care, they get cut off from not just the bad parents or whoever, they get cut off from extended family, from neighbors, from people in their community. often they
Siblings.
don't, they don't even, yeah, siblings, yeah, that was what I was just gonna say. And again, it's a question of resources. How much contact, if the kids for one reason or another don't end up in the same home, it takes resources to make sure that those relationships are preserved. And what we need to do is we need to see every relationship that that child has as an opportunity and work so hard to preserve it.
You know, they both told the same story, right? They changed schools, which means what? They changed friends, which means they weren't able to do extracurricular activities. All these things stopped. You know, they lost all those things. And then at 18, what happens again? Well, the worker they had in their life is gone. They may have Jackie, who's now in their life as well, but their other worker's gone. Their court-appointed attorney is gone. Their foster parents are gone for the most part because, hey, they have a bed that they need to keep someone in and they can't get reimbursement anymore. If they are in a residential treatment center, services probably end at that center for 18, and they have to go find a place for adults. Their therapist is going to change because they can't go to a adolescent therapist anymore. So it's, you know, we're re-exposing them to all of those things, and I think that's really, it's traumatic.
We have to add in some of our leadership folks for our second part to talk about how we can change some of these things. So we will do that and come back.